Today I'm going to talk about this bike. Actually, I'm going to go ride it, but I'm probably going to talk about it too. I got to put some air in the tires. I tried to grab my bike pump. It's really basic Blackburn air tower, and I grabbed the wrong one. I've got one that the kids took the head apart on and lost the parts to, and so it doesn't clamp at all, and I had to dig out the good one. I can't bring myself to throw away the old one because I keep thinking I might need it for parts for this one. What I ought to do is clean the poor thing. I'm actually probably way too pleased with this cycling jersey. It kind of fits with the bike though, because you know it's a Fuji. Alright, so I've turned on battery optimization, so I should be able to use Strava. But I reset my cycling computer distance too, because Strava cuts out on my phone even with the battery optimized. I'm not sure why that is. Nice little ride along the river and right past the water treatment plant. We've got kind of a cool statue garden thing. What's it called? A statue walk? Something like that. I heard a horrible sound and something went skittering off, and I had to go back and see what it was that I ran over in the road. I guess I should be a little bit more careful. I want to kind of hoard my battery so I don't run out, but I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. It's a beautiful day for a ride. Woo! It's beautiful out here. And we're running out of trail. I'm gonna push on for a little bit, but I don't think I'm gonna scramble up and down little ravines like I did in that other video. But I'll see if there's how far we can ride. We are working on it. So some of you may know that a couple years ago, southern Minnesota was the site of some pretty terrible flooding, and the town that I'm almost to is called Rapidan. Kind of made the national news because the Rapidan Dam was damaged and there's quite a bit of erosion there, and the dam store, which is a little diner and bait shop right next to the river, is no more, along with the folks who own that store, their house. So there's quite a bit of construction along this trail, and in that town they actually took down the bridge that went in there. And so I said I was going to talk about my bike, and it is a Fuji Connoisseur. I want to say it's from probably 2010, but I think they made these around 2010 to 2012. That means it's not an especially old bike compared to actually most of the bikes in my garage, but I bought this as a frame set. I was super intrigued by it. I had been looking for a Reynolds 853 bike, and instead I found this Reynolds 725 bike in a 54 centimeter, and it's got quite a bit narrower tubing than a Reynolds 853 would have for the main tubes. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Reynolds 853 bikes usually have Reynolds 725 stays if they're more of a premium bike, because the narrower tubing, 853 is not especially suitable for it. Some of the things I really like about this bike, it's got a beautiful kind of sloping crown look to the fork, and that kind of embossed fleur-de-lis shape, which I really think is cool. It tapers down to a point. It's kind of a straight blade there, and then that same sort of fleur-de-lis shape down there as well. And it's actually got really sharp looking dropouts here with kind of some details. It does have an eyelet, presumably for a fender or a rack potentially, and there's a boss here, presumably for a rack, and I've just got a little plastic insert there. Like I said, I bought this as a frame set, and in deciding on the parts for it, I wanted to use Shimano 600 tricolor crank set because it's my favorite crank set. It's just beautiful, cold forged. And since the chain rings are spaced for 7-speed and 8-speed, I went ahead and just selected the Claris group, since I didn't have Shimano 600 parts for the rest of the bike. And I did want to have kind of a modern performing bike to some extent. I wanted the ergonomics of a modern shifter brake lever, the cleaner cables close to the handlebar as opposed to coming out of the sides of the brake lever, and that light action shifting. I also really like the head badge on there. I think that's super cool. And it is kind of an old-fashioned head badge plate. For handlebar, I'm using a Deda Piega compact handlebar with a 26.0 clamp diameter. And then I found an old Tioga T-bone stem with a fairly neutral rise in order to get the right fit for me. I've got Tektro R539 brakes, which are adaptable for a little bit longer reach, which I didn't really need here. Even down to the old square cut decals. and detailing. You know, in 2010, companies were starting to realize that Surly and Salsa were cleaning up on kind of the nostalgia chrome Allez Steel frame market, I guess, and decided to get in with a little retro bike of their own. I don't think they did too many of these. It came with a really basic drivetrain, although I suppose this is a pretty basic drivetrain. Came with a very inexpensive crankset, some off-brand downtube shifters, and I mean, honestly, it was a really good-looking bike. And you know, Reynolds 25 is a really nice tube set, but I don't know. I don't know if they set the world on fire or not. I mentioned that these originally came with downtube shifters, and I actually really like downtube shifters. I thought about building this as a downtube shifter bike, but here's the secret. I actually have another Fuji Connoisseur just like this in a 54 centimeter also, with a Shimano 105 drivetrain and Dura-Ace 10-speed downtube shifters. It's over at my parents' place right now. I go for rides with my dad when I go visit. That bike's a whole nother story. And as far as the parts go, I've got a carbon seat post, which feels a little bit out of place on this steel bike. I've got a San Marco Ponza saddle, a takeoff saddle I bought at a bike shop for probably $20. Using, let's see, what else is there? Oh, some King stainless cages. So I thought, you know, stainless cages seem like a good add-on for a nice steel bike. I just noticed that the strap is coming loose, and a lot of times the hook and loop closures are not that great on these seat bags, and I got one of my wife's hair ties and actually put it up around these straps so that even if the hook and loop lets go, the saddlebag will still stay in place. Sounds like somebody's shooting trap not too far from here. I'm reasonably certain they're not throwing a coup in Rapidan, so... Oh yeah, the wheels are some old Mavic Aksium races, and I think a nice set of silver wheels like this complements the bike. They're not super high performance, but they're not bad wheels either. I had debated taking these kind of loud decals off or removing part of them in keeping with the sort of older styling of the bike, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. Let me know in the comments if you think I should. And if I'm being fussy, I probably should go ahead and move these brake levers up on the bar just a little bit, maybe from here to here, to get just the right curve underneath. What do you guys think? And just some basic Shimano SPD pedals. I don't use a lot of proper road pedals. I usually use Shimano SPD or a clone of SPD because it's just easier for me. I don't want to have a ton of different shoes. That said, I do have Shimano Ultegra pedals on my giant TCR Carbon, and I do have road shoes, but most of the time, and for the kind of rides I want to take on this, it's nice for me to be able to have a walkable shoe when I get where I'm going. And the cycling computer is a Cat-Eye Strata wireless with cadence, and we've got the speed sensor there and also the cadence sensor, and I just put a rare earth magnet on the inside of the pedal on the crank arm to serve as the magnet for cadence. And that's pretty much the bike. I think it's kind of unique. I was sort of shooting for something old-fashioned, but not too much, you know. I see a lot of really cool Le Mans and things like that, Waterfords, and you don't see a ton of these around, but I think it's kind of a cool bike. I think it's a neat mix of the old and the new. And same with the drivetrain. It's a weird mix of old and new. The mosquitoes are starting to bite, so gonna get back out on the trail. Hope you found this interesting about the Fuji Connoisseur. So I had posted this picture online that said something like, how to avoid stress at work. You know, step 1, don't go to work. Step 2, ride your bicycle. And my friend Jeff sort of replied, you know, how do I, you know, then I'll stress out about money if I don't go to work. Maybe just ride your bike to work, which is a really good idea, honestly. And I said, I don't know, I had today off, so I said, pick a number from 1 to 100, and that's how many miles I'll ride tomorrow. And because he's a smart guy, he said pi, which he sort of meant to be, you know, it goes on forever, just keep riding, which is very cool. But I thought, well, really it's 3.1, and that's not going to be enough. So I said, okay, 31 miles it is. And right now I've got about 11 and a half, so I've got to get the rest of those 31 miles. Not sure why this little 2-block section of street is cobblestone. Yeah, it's a little bumpy, but it's like my own little Paris-Roubaix.